Connors, and we are so glad you're here. Tonight is sure to be a really fun conversation, so we're going to save time at the end for any questions or comments, so just throw them in the chat box. So our guest tonight is part of television history. In 1969, at just 7 years old, she was cast in a show about a wholesome blended family of 6 children. The show has been so popular, it has been broadcast somewhere in the United States and abroad every day for the past 50 years. The iconic show, of course, is The Brady Bunch. And our special guest is Susan Olsen, who played the adorable Cindy Brady. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. It's good to be
here. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So let's dive right in. How did you get started in this crazy business at such a young age?
You know, if I ever stop being so lazy, which I hope it will be soon, I will write a book. And the story is really kind of complicated, and it will be in the book. But I'll put it this way: my grandmother believed in magical thinking, and this all started with my oldest brother, who was just a beautiful, beautiful little boy. And my gram just thought that he should be in the movies. Now, this was back, he was born in 1938. So this was way back when. And so my grandmother claims that she put a blessing on the family, and that it was due to her that each and every one of us kids was discovered by a talent agent or talent scout, a director. My oldest brother, when he was 5, was just standing on a street corner with my mother, and a woman pulled her car up to them, got out of the car, gave them her card and said, is this little boy in pictures? And my mother said no. And she handed her business card and said, take this child to Fox Studios tomorrow at 4:00. They're looking for a little boy like him. And, my name is Lola Moore, and I'm an agent, and yada, yada. So mom goes home and tells dad, and dad throws a fit and says, no way is my son going to be an actor. And my mom said, oh, what are the chances that he would get it? Come on, I'd love to see what the inside of a studio looks like. So she takes him to Fox Studios the next day, and he gets the part. So my dad put up threw a fit, but let my brother do it. And then my brother kept on working. And then my next brother was born 8 years after the first brother, and was on the set. And a director came because my brother was working and mom couldn't find a babysitter, or maybe wanted to show the baby off. Director comes in and says, that little boy, that baby has a mouth like Gene Tierney. I want him to play Gene Tierney's son in this movie. So he gets started. And then my sister got discovered. I got discovered. I was discovered when I was 3 and put in a few commercials. Then my sister didn't want to do it anymore. My mom said, I'm sick of it. And took both of us out. By this time, the 2 brothers had grown up. My oldest brother was married and had a child before I was born. So I was born an aunt. And they had gotten out of the business, got tired of it. And my sister then wanted out. And I was 3 and she was 8. And so my mom took me out and thought she'd have a nice, normal life. But fate wouldn't have it that way. My grandmother's magic was still working. And when I was 5 years old in kindergarten, the talent scout came to my school and picked me to sing a song on the Pat Boone Show. And so my mother said, okay, I didn't give you a chance. The other kids decided they didn't want to do it anymore. I never gave you a chance to do it. Do you want to be an actress? Do you want me to get you an agent? And I'm like, oh, yes, mommy, please give me an agent. I want to work.
And you were in Gunsmoke and Ironside and even an Elvis movie, right?
Yes. And an episode of Julia, which was a really forward-thinking show in its time. It was about a single Black mother, professional woman. She was a nurse, and she was played by Diane Carroll. Yeah. And I had to play a little bigot, which didn't thrill me.
Tell me about the Elvis movie.
Well, I would have gotten to dance and sing with him. The director wanted to hire me for a larger role in the movie, and other people, producers and whatnot, thought that I was maybe just a little too young to handle all the dialogue and the singing and the dancing. So they hired Anessa Jones, who played Buffy on Family Affair. And she was quite a bit older than she looked. But the director still liked me a lot, and he wanted me to do something in the movie. So they had me sing a song. And the movie was about the old Chautauqua circuits, where it was a traveling show where they would pick up local talents. So they would hold auditions, and I was auditioning. And so I didn't really have a scene with him. He was off to the side. But when I met him, and I was not an Elvis fan at all. I was like, big deal. And yet when I met him and I looked at him, I was dumbstruck. And I have to say, this is a memory of somebody who had that magic, that star power. And he was just beautiful. The movie is called The Trouble with Girls, and he was wearing a white suit with a blue shirt, and his blue eyes were so blue. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, he's cool.
Now I'm an Elvis fan. Right?
Yeah. And then I found out that the Beatles, because the Beatles were my heroes, and I found out that they were big Elvis fans. I'm like, okay, he's cool.
So I read for the Brady Bunch that they auditioned 400 kids. Were they looking for kids that looked alike, or were they looking for synergy, or what was that experience like?
Well, I had decided after doing my episode of Julia that I wanted to be in a series, because the two little boys that were on the show were regulars. And I'm like, I want to be a regular. And I want a steady job. I'm 7. It's time. And, actually, I was 6 at that time. But 3 days after my 7th birthday, we were vacationing in Las Vegas. And the agent called my mom and said, I think you're going to want to cut your vacation short because this is a series. And I know Susan wants a series. So I went in and I auditioned, and Sherwood Schwartz liked to say, and I'm grateful to him for saying it. He says that I was the first person cast for my role. I walked in, he thought my lisp was really cute, and I was trying to explain special effects to the people in the room. But still, they still had us all get together 4 groupings to see who looked, to try to make three little girls that looked alike. And apparently there were 3 brunette girls and 3 blonde girls. And the original lineup, they were toying with the idea of having the Marcia character like be the middle child, and then somebody who was older, ready to go off to college as the oldest girl. And I think they wisely decided against that. And so like Maureen and I were doing screen tests together before we got the roles. And there's a set of blonde-haired boys and brunette girls that just didn't get to be a part of the bunch, but it all hinged on who they chose for the parents. So if they'd chosen a blonde-haired father, then the boys would have been blonde.
Who else was up for the parents besides Florence? Who else was up for the mom?
I just did a podcast game show with her. And she looks wonderful too. Buffante. I can't think of her name, but
it'll come to you.
She was actually cast for the role. And one of those things where at the last minute, somebody, some muckety muck said, no, I want Florence. So they had to call her and tell her no. And Florence was busy in Norway doing a musical movie called Song of Norway. So for the first episode was the pilot, and you wait for that to either sell or not sell. But for the first 6 episodes, once we had an actual series, Florence was not around, and we filmed around her. And then, once she got back into town, then all of her scenes were done together. And it was really a lot of hard work for her to play catch up.
And the man who created the show, Sherwood Schwartz, hard to say, he created Gilligan's Island, right?
Yes.
I mean, what a genius show. That was one of my favorites.
He did create, I mean, it's ridiculous how many shows he created.
What else?
Oh gosh, It's About Time, Dusty's Trail. I mean, most of the other shows just didn't really last.
Didn't hit, yeah.
But there were quite a few of them. So he was very prolific, and I think he was a genius, because with Brady Bunch, the network wanted him to create characters, like have a smart kid, a stupid kid, a fat kid, a skinny kid, and all these types. And he said, no, I'm going to cast 6 kids that I find interesting. And I think that was pure genius on his part.
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah. And a couple that for 1969, they actually were kind of equal, right? Like they both parented the kids, they both did chores together. So that was pretty. And they slept in the same bed. That was like the first show that allowed, married couples to sleep in the same bed. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that the thing that's so unique about Brady Bunch is not only did the husband and wife, they respected each other, but they also lent that respect to the kids. So the kids respected the parents, and the parents respected the kids. And it's something you just don't see anymore. And back when I was younger, I wanted to fight off the goody two shoes image. But I'm older and wiser, and I'm a mother myself, and I see the value in having family values in a TV show. And I'll tell people, I'll say, they'll come up to me, and they're fans, and they have kids. I'm like, do you make your kids watch the Brady Bunch? And they say no. I'm like, no, you're missing out, because it will help you teach them. They're very simple stories, but they teach valuable lessons. And it's one show that they can watch where the father isn't an idiot.
Right. But when you were on the show, here you are 7 years old, and that's a pretty critical time. You're trying to define your personality, who you hang out with and stuff, and people just assume you are who you are when you play on who you play on screen, right? So was that a struggle for you to be like, no, I'm actually a cool kid, I'm not a goody two shoes?
Yeah, it was. It very much was. From the time I was little, I think it began with the Tattletale episode. Cindy the Tattletale. It's like, what a jerk! Why is she such a jerk? And why is she so stupid? And I had a hard time. I used to say I wouldn't even be friends with her, but but that's me being a child going to school. Right. And getting teased for everything that Cindy did while she was inhabiting my body on TV. I used to be grateful that the show was on a Friday, so that the kids at school hopefully had the weekend to kind of forget. But they would tease me, for whatever Cindy did. And that was only the kids that didn't know me. But I mean, we went to regular public school, which would be unheard of today. And all my friends knew me.
I'm curious about that. So were you what were the child labor laws? How much were you working? How much were you in school? Were you tutored on set? How did that work?
Yeah, we were tutored on set. We had to have 3 hours of school a day, which sounds like a breeze, but it's concentrated. So you're not having recess. You're not goofing off and blowing spit wads, and it's concentrated. It's you, your book, your teacher. And I would always end up ahead of my class when I'd go back to school. So, we would film. We'd try to get as much filming done during the summertime as we could. And then, sometime during the first semester, I would go back to school, and I was generally ahead of the class. So our education did not suffer at all. And, I'd go back to school, and it was like, okay, how many new kids are there? Because my friends, back then it was a smaller world. It was a nicer world. And we had a really good principal who always made sure that me and my best friend Moya were in the same class. And that kind of, they tried to keep kids together. And so it was sort of the same old crowd, but then out in the playground were all these new kids. And, my friends would, get into fights to defend me because, like after the Tattletale episode, the other kids are coming and my friends would be ready to beat them up.
Did you go into Sherwood and say, like, look, no more Tattletale episodes, that's it?
Well, no, because I went to my mother first. And I asked Mom, and I said, is there something wrong with Cindy? Because it was over the line. My mother gives me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I say, how come you always give me peanut butter and jelly? And she says, because they're your favorite. And I go, oh yeah, I keep forgetting. And I asked my mother, is Cindy special needs? I didn't say special needs. I used another word, which we can't use anymore. But my mom said, no. She goes, believe it or not, that's cute. To have you be like a little bit dumb is cute. I didn't understand the concept of dumb blonde. But so, I don't, the only time I ever complained to Sherwood was when they kept coloring my hair a different color, like every week. And my hair started to fall out.
That's what I was going to ask you. So your hair was not that platinum blonde, huh?
No, it was more, it was a little dirtier, I mean, my hair, this is a natural color. I only bleached the top. It's mousy. And so, they wanted that platinum look, but then we got a new producer and he kept changing his mind. And you could see in the third season that Florence and our hair color keeps changing from episode to episode. And I was having to stay late at Paramount on Friday nights to give me a new hair color. And it got to be such a drag. And, like Friday was my relaxing time before the weekend. And anyway, I told my mom, I said, I'm not so sure I want to keep doing this if they keep changing my hair. And she said, I want you to go tell Sherwood that. And Sherwood looked at me and he said, honey, we're not going to color your hair ever again.
Wow.
Yeah. But my mom continued to color my hair at home because, she was the one that started with the platinum blonde.
And how'd you feel about the pigtails?
I hated them. My hair started breaking off. I loved them in the beginning because they made me look like Buffy on Family Affair.
Right.
And I really liked her. But after a while, it's like, my gosh, because I had to sleep in curlers because my hair was really, really straight. And in order to get the curls to stay, my mom was the only one who could do it. And I'd have bands in my hair and curlers. And by the third, just before I went to the braids, I had like 8 or 9 curlers on either side of my head because my hair was really, really thick. And it was really long too. And it was just so, you could pull those curls and go bing. And I learned to sleep on my back because I had, these things in my head every night.
I can't imagine what you went through at 7 years old. It's crazy.
But I don't, sometimes I believe in reincarnation because for me, just because my dad was constantly trying to get me to quit the show because he hated it. He said, it's bad enough that all my kids did acting, but now we've got a child who's famous. And, people would come up to the dining room window, they'd find out where I lived and be looking inside. And my dad was very Norwegian and kind of, not somebody who wanted to be famous or who wanted to share in any of that. He couldn't stand acting. He couldn't stand movies. You take Dad to a movie, and during the sad scenes, he'd be laughing. It was kind of embarrassing. We didn't take him to the theater very often. He'd say, "Oh, it's so silly, all this drama." But so he kept trying to get me to leave, and for me it was right because I wasn't really a normal kid, and I wanted to work. I wanted to be on that set. There were times, my dad would say, he'd give me a horse and riding lessons at Foxfield, this wonderful academy. And in the first place, I knew that we couldn't afford it if I wasn't working. In the second place, I said to my father, I know you think that my life is weird, but wouldn't it be weird if I left the show and I had to look at it on Friday nights and know that I wasn't there, that I could have been there and I'm not there anymore? And he's like, well, you have a very good point there. So, he kind of gave in. But I definitely wanted to be working, and, I was more of an adult then than I am now.
And it sounds like the 8 of you really had an amazing bond.
The 9 of us, because
Alice, yeah, right. But tell me about that.
And I think that one of the reasons why the show was so successful, because I believe in the public, and people are more psychic than they're given credit for. And I think that the people knew, our audience knew that we really loved each other, because I think it showed. And it's weird because I don't know, there's only 7 years of my life before this happened, maybe like 6.5. No, 7. But so I have another family, and my son has another family, and he's 24 now, and I don't know, he'll want something, or, I'll be, because I'm going through things now because I'm moving. He's like, let me have that if you don't want it. And, some Brady Bunch coloring book or something. And he goes, hey, that's my legacy too. Like, okay. When he was little, his last grandparent died. And I said, oh, honey, I'm so sorry you don't have grandparents anymore. He goes, what do you mean? I've got Grandma Flo. She was Grandma Flo.
It's amazing. And you named him after Mike, right?
Yes, Mike Lickenland, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Always had a best friend named Mike.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up on a soundstage? I read a funny story about Chevy Chase.
Oh my goodness. Saturday Night Live had just started, and
they were taping out there? Were they taping out in California? Saturday Night Live?
This was after Chevy had left. I guess he left the show to do his own thing, and he was shooting a special, his own that primetime special, and he and Paul Shaffer were on the lot where we were taping the Brady Bunch Variety Hour, which was voted the 4th worst show in television history.
Something to be proud of.
Well, I got so proud of it that I became part of a book about the Variety Hour called Love to Love You Brady's. And it's just everything you'd ever want to know about the show, and just how a show got put together back in those days, because they were editing on Thanksgiving, and it was to air that night, and NBC thought they were going to have to go to dead air, because that's the way things were back then. It was hand delivered to the network just in time to get on TV. But Jerry Rochelle, who replaced Eve Plum as Jan, because Eve had other commitments, she and I were walking somewhere. We turned the corner, and there's Chevy Chase. And Saturday Night Live, my mother and I had just discovered it. And I was like, that's the future. That's the way comedy should be. That's the best show in the world. And I was crazy about it. And of course, Chevy was just so adorable. And so for some reason, I think I was holding Jerry's hand. And I was squeezing it so hard because he stopped us. It's like, hey, what are you girls doing here? And I explained that we're on the Brady Bunch. And he's like, the Brady Bunch has a variety show? And I'm like, we're singing and dancing and doing the hustle. And he said, well, come visit Paul in the office. So every now and then we would go, Mike and Jerry and I would go to Paul Shaffer and Chevy Chase's office, and Paul would be playing the piano and Jerry could sing really well, and sort of like have this little music session. And it was fun because it was the first time I was able to actually ditch class while on a set. And we could see out the window, the teacher was looking for us, and we're having fun with Chevy and Paul.
But didn't he play a practical joke on you, something with a hand?
Oh, yes. He had this, I don't know what it's called, but there's a type of gelatinous plastic that was very popular for a while. They made creepy crawly things. Wall walkers are made of the same stuff. And so he had this hand and he'd tuck it under his sleeve and he'd go to shake your hand and it was all gooey and gross and jiggly. And I asked him one day if I could borrow it because I was really embarrassed and ashamed of the show. I loved doing it and I loved being with my family and it was fun. But I just started developing my own taste in music. I was into punk rock. I hated disco with a passion. And I used to beg my friends at school, do not watch the show. Please don't watch the show. And of course they all did. So I thought, well, I want to put something in the background. I love little background details. And so I asked Chevy if I could borrow the hand and I put it in the blender in the kitchen. Hoping that the show would air and I could tell my friends, okay, look at the blender. And dang it, we got right up to we were all ready to shoot, and the director went, wait a minute, there's something in the blender. And what was weird to me is that it's a hand, and immediately everybody looked at me. I have a reputation for
they had your number.
Okay.
But you guys had some really some pretty big stars on your show, right? Actually, I read that Rita Wilson, wasn't that one of her first roles on the Brady Bunch?
That was her role. She might have done a couple other things before that, but that was the role that got her Screen Actors Guild card.
Oh, she was a cheerleader, right? Yeah. And then Davy Jones and Joe Namath.
Yes.
So as a 7 or 8 year old, did any of this mean like anything, or was it just like, hey, I've hung out with Elvis and this is just life, right?
Well, Davy Jones was really special because I've been a fan of the Monkees. The sports stars, I didn't know who Don Drysdale was. I really didn't know who Joe Namath was, but he was so nice and he had the kindest eyes that I just ended up really liking him and enjoying working with him. Natalie Shaffer, who played Lovey on Gilligan's Island, she was really fun, and she was such a nice person that she even, nobody would remember our names because, there's too many kids. I'll just call you by your character name. She not only remembered my name, but she remembered my mother's name, and she saw my mother somewhere and went up to her. And my mom has a weird name too, and she said, "Oh, Deloise, hello, how's Susan?" And I thought that was really special. And Vincent Price, but kind of my special favorite is Hal Smith, who played Santa Claus on the first season episode, the only Christmas episode we did. And I got to sit on his lap, and I knew him as Otis the Drunk.
Oh my gosh. Oh, great. What a character.
And he came back to play the Cartoon King. And such a nice man. And I was sitting next to him and I said, you know, I think you're really, really funny. And I loved you on the Andy Griffith Show. And I know you're Otis the drunk. And he said, yes, but you know, I'm actually really Santa Claus. You know, I just do acting, you know, from time to time. And I said, but you were also the Pancake Man. That was a local show where he hosted a cartoon. You know, he was the host and he'd play cartoons. And he goes, yeah, those are just jobs. I'm actually Santa Claus. And
I love
like,
it.
no. But I don't want to argue with him because if he is Santa Claus, I don't want to make him angry.
Exactly.
And so I sort of believed him because he had these magical, sweet blue eyes. And I thought, well, you know, he seems as good as any person to be Santa. Okay. And then he came back as the cartoon king, and I was older, and I got it. And I did a Disney movie with him, and he played a drunk.
Wow. So did your mom have to come to set every day with you?
Absolutely. And as Paul Peterson once said, it was, you know, it's slave labor because the parents are expected to have the kid ready, have their lines rehearsed and memorized. I came to the set pretty much camera ready, which was my mom's doing. And then the parents had to sit around all day. Only Barry was able to.
It's two people working, really.
It really is. And since my mom was the only one that could do my hair, but you know, they also were keeping us in line too. You know, they were making sure that we, you know, didn't act up. You know, if we didn't have our lines memorized, we'd hear from our parents probably sooner than the director. But gosh, I mean, we had these teeny tiny dressing rooms in the beginning. We didn't get our own dressing rooms until the 5th season. They were tiny. I mean, OSHA would have a fit these days. And like 3 for the girls and for the boys. So there's 3 little girls and 3 mothers in this teeny tiny room. And, you know, our mothers would have to sit around all day. And they'd go on the set if their child was working and make sure that they were doing well. But I mean, they became very, very good friends.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they really did. And learned to do all kinds of needle crafts and read a million books. And we did too. Because we didn't have no electronics back in our day. And during the summertime, we would do. I mean, Ambi Davis got us all into doing needlepoint. I learned to knit and crochet. My teacher, she would become the kind of the crafts person when she wasn't having to teach school. And she got me my first set of oil paints when I was 11. So, yeah, we all became very creative because we had a lot of time to fill.
And did you hang out outside of work?
Yeah, we did. You know, that was even more fun. I used to love to have Mike Lookinland come over for a sleepover. Maureen and Eve spent a lot of time together. We
of each other. Amazing gift in your life, wasn't it?
Yes, and also something that people probably don't know because there's only a little bit of footage of it, but we made 4 albums. They weren't very good, but we also went on concert tour. So we toured the country together, and for me, that was more bonding than anything because it was the 6 of us in these different cities and playing to different audiences. And in a couple of places, it was like Beatlemania. I mean, we got mobbed, you know, cars were following our car. And of course, it was my Beatle existence that I had always wanted. But being on the road together, I think, really strengthened that bond.
What an incredible! I mean, what an incredible brand the Brady Bunch became, right? It's like it's remarkable. I can't think of any other show. I mean, wasn't there a Cindy doll?
that wasn't really a Brady thing.
Okay.
That was a doll. In fact, if you watch the movie Sid and Nancy, um,
One
Nancy's
of your
going
favorites.
around. Oh, I love it. I love the Sex Pistols, but I don't have the same taste as Cindy would. But there's a Gary Oldman that is wonderful as Sid Vicious, and Nancy's going around saying, "I'm Quick Curl Barbie." He goes, "You mean Cindy?" And like hardly anybody probably knew what that meant, but Cindy was the British version of Barbie. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
very clearly different. Like they didn't want Cindy to drive a car. She had a horse. She didn't have a boyfriend. There's no Ken. And so when they decided to bring her to America, the Variety Hour was running. And when they did their market tests with children, they asked them, they wouldn't play with the brunette Cindy. And so this is Cindy Brady. So the kids were identifying her with me. So they got me to do the commercials.
Oh, okay.
It was spelled with an S. So it was one of those things that wasn't illegal, but it was misleading.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to go to New York to do the commercials.
Good. Let's talk about the set. I mean, where did those stairs go to?
They went to the catwalks, which is where all the lights are. And that's, I mean, there are a couple of other ladders and such, but that was the convenient way to get to the catwalks. And of course, if we went on the catwalks, we were in serious trouble. But we would all go up to that landing and there wasn't that much room there. So we'd all be like crammed together. Maybe they'd have to reshoot it. I see a shadow. So we have to cram together a little tighter.
Yeah.
But that, it went nowhere.
And were you surprised in 2019 when HGTV bought the house that was the exterior of the Brady Bunch?
I was happy. At first everybody was texting me. It's like my phone heated up. All these texts. Don't you want to buy the house? I'm like, why would I want to buy that house? Why would I want to live there and have, and then Lance Bass had put a bid on it. And Lance to me is kind of like Bobby Brady because just because when he wanted to be an astronaut, he actually went to Russia. And I wasn't a fan of the music or anything, but I just thought that was really impressive that he went to Russia to cosmonaut school. I thought, that's so Bobby Brady. And Lance really loved the Brady Bunch. I thought, man, he'll love the house. And then I thought, oh my gosh, that's something to be concerned about. That house needs to go to somebody who loves it. Because if they put a wrecking ball in that house, it's kind of like putting a wrecking ball into the American family, which I think is already happening all over the place anyway. So then I was like, well, somebody good needs to get it. And then I heard it was a production company. I thought, well, maybe that's okay. And then the next thing you know, they had a meeting with 4 of us Bradys. And it was a beautiful experience because I love it. To me, it was truly art because it was a vision. We have to have the house. Well, what are we going to do? I don't know. But we have to have it. We have to do that. And they let their instincts take them to the project. And then, so we have to have the Bradys. What are you going to do with them? We don't know. But we have to have them. And it was at that meeting that it was discussed. Maybe what we're going to do is try to make the interior look like the set. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you'll never be able to do that because I've tried to since I was little. Because I was told, because I was a serious child and I went to the producer and I said, why did you choose the house that you chose for the exterior? I mean, there's no way. It's a 1-story house. And he said, I'll have you know that if you walk into that house, it looks exactly like this set. And I racked my brain trying, because I wanted to be an architect at the time. And I was trying to figure out, how could it be? It's 1 story and the bulk of the house is on the wrong side. And I went to my mom and I said, how is this? And she said, oh, honey, they were just trying to shut you up. And I was the little girl that, also went to them and said, on Gilligan's Island, if it was a 3-hour tour, how come everybody packed? Go away, Susan. Don't get something else to do. So there's like an 8-year-old me that was being vindicated with this show. And I told myself, I don't know how you would do it, because I have the blueprints in my computer, put them in Photoshop, and tried to put the upper floor on top of the lower floor, and it really doesn't work. But
was it fun doing the HG show?
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't have to play our characters; we could be ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's always great for us to be together, and we got to get our hands dirty a little bit. I would like to have done a bit more in terms of the actual work on the house. But it's such a trip to see it finished, go up those stairs, and it's not just a landing. It's not exactly like the house, in TV land. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a miracle. The fact that they were able to do it is just incredible. They sunk the first floor, so because they didn't want to compromise that exterior look. Yeah. But they didn't sink it very much. I mean, just it was brilliant.
Amazing.
Just brilliant. Yeah, and fun and really nice people to work with. Super nice. HGTV, absolutely wonderful.
Great. Is it fun for you to look back on all the episodes and what an adventure your life has been?
Yeah, if I see one, yeah, because I'm the only one who watched the show. When it was in reruns and I was in high school, enough time had gone by that I wasn't cringing. When I was little, I used to go in the bedroom with my dad and watch Sanford and Son. I didn't want to see myself. I didn't want to hear myself either, because I couldn't hear my lisp inside my head, but on the TV, I could hear it a lot. And so I did not like to watch the show, but I started watching it in reruns when I was older, and I could go, oh yeah, that was cute. Okay. And it was like watching home movies, and I would be thinking of what we were doing offset at that time. But because I'm the only one that watched the show, I'm the only one that can do Brady trivia.
That's good. So around 12, you decided you really didn't want to act much anymore, right?
No, it wasn't until later. At 12, I just wanted the show to be canceled. I started praying for it, because I was getting really awkward. I was glad that we had Robbie Rist, cousin Oliver, because it's like, okay, let him be the cute one. Just let me be fixing a bicycle in the background or something. That I felt very awkward. I had braces, my nose was growing. I got it fixed. I actually had 4 nose jobs because I'm some kind of regenerating freak. It kept growing back. I've never heard of such a thing. So I have starfish DNA. But I felt very ugly. It's tough enough to go through adolescence and to stop being cute.
Do it on national television. It's pretty tough. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, could we end this? And then I thought, okay, I'm going to have a normal life, because nobody hired anybody, a teenager in those days. They would hire somebody who was 18, because they didn't have to deal with the child labor laws.
Yeah.
So if you were, 15, forget it. You just weren't going to be hired unless they had. And I was almost 13. I was 13 by the time it really ended. And I just thought, no, I'm going to be normal and, go to high school and have a regular life until I'm 18. And then when I was 18, I decided to take it seriously and go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And I after that, I was studying with some really good teachers. I was in a class that had people that ended up being Oscar winners. Ray Liotta used to sit behind me, And so I was pursuing it without realizing that I didn't want it. And so I would go on auditions and I'd do this great cold script read. And they call me back in, and with each callback, I'd get worse. I'm sure that there were a lot of casting directors that were chewed out over me. You said she was good. She's horrible. Because I'd come back, and I didn't realize it subconsciously. I was
that's what I was gonna say. Unconsciously, you were just you needed to move on to something else.
Yeah, and I was really jealous of my boyfriend because he was going to the Art Institute in San Francisco, and I wanted to be an artist. But I didn't really realize that until I went on an audition and I did my terrific cold script read, and they said, "Here, you got the part." I'm like, "Oh." And I'm driving home going, "Oh no, I don't want to do this." Yeah, and I did it, and I called my agent, I called my teacher, and I said, I'm out of here. I don't, I was 23. And then I pursued, I started working in art as a graphic artist, and that worked out for me. But now I teach the kids.
Yeah.
And I don't take it as seriously. Like, we just did a Lifetime movie. We cast 4 Bradys, Mike, Chris, Barry, the 3 boys, and me, and cousin Oliver are in this movie, not playing Brady characters, playing other people. And I'm like, I guess I've taught it enough now that I just followed my own instructions. This isn't bad. If I can pay the bills doing some acting,
why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're beating down my door, asking for me, but I don't mind pursuing that a little bit.
I just looked at the time, and it's getting short. So I want to talk about your love of animals, because I know this charity is really super important to you. It's Spirit of Animals Sanctuary. Tell us about that.
It's Spirit of Animals in Acton, California. There are a couple of others around the country. And I got involved with them. I'm on the board of directors. And everybody knows me as a crazy cat lady, or anybody that knows me from social media, because I started foster parenting kittens. And that was because a friend of mine had done it. He said, "Susan, try this." And I'm like, no, a house full of kittens and puppies. And wait a minute, that sounds great. And son is on the autistic spectrum. And I thought at the time that it might be good for him to help develop empathy. And I was trained to foster parent puppies and kittens, be a bottle feeder. And the thing is, cats are, it's raining kittens. People are not real responsible about spaying and neutering.
Yeah.
So I never took in a litter of puppies. It was just kittens. And then I moved on from that. I stopped taking in the foster kitties because it got stinky.
Yes. When you open your front door and you're like, woo!
You get so you can't smell it, and other people come.
Other people can. Yeah.
But I mean, you've got a house full of kittens. It's adorable. But anyway, I got involved with this sanctuary. I have mutual friends that are involved. And this is all kinds of animals. And a lot of them were rescued from laboratories where they were experimented on. We don't have exotic animals. There's no lions and tigers and such. But there's a lot of cattle and sheep and opossums, which I have a special fondness for. And now that I'm moving, I will foster parent a little bit, just not on the scale that I used to, but it'll be possums or raccoons or squirrels, and we rehabilitate them. And that's the main thing, is to get them back out in the wild so that they have the life that God intended for them. And then, of course, when it comes to things like sheep or pigs that are rescued from animal laboratories, they don't have a wilderness to go to, so they get a forever home, and they get treated really well. And Rhea Gardner is the owner and director of the sanctuary, and I swear every single animal there does respond to love, and I think it's because of Rhea. And Rhea recently lost her husband, who was her Rock of Gibraltar, and but is tough enough that she's going to go ahead. They had plans of moving to a new 30 acres, and they're going to do that. So if the website that you click on, please do, because we could take donations. It's not that up to date, but it will be, you know, when the dust is settled, and it's going to be an off the grid sanctuary. At least the humans will be off the grid, solar powered, all that stuff.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, and yeah.
What is it about opossums? Your favorite is an opossum?
Oh, I just love them. They're such sweet little things. And I had one. It was my first friend pet. He wasn't my pet. I named him Brian. He was an opossum that would come over like every night for dinner. And they're really very docile, and I could pet him. I never tried picking him up because I don't think they like that. But he was very docile, and it turned, you know, they get such a bad rap because they look really scary, which is part of why I like them. But they're sweet, and they really won't hurt you. I mean, yes, they could bite, and they have bitten, but chances are they'll pass out before they ever do you any harm. They don't carry diseases.
Don't they eat ticks and things like that too?
Yes, they eat lime ticks.
Yeah.
So they cut down on that. They also can survive a whole bunch of different snake bites. So snake bite serum is used. They are used in snake bite serum. Some of their plasma is used. Yeah. Wow. And, you know, if you see one in your yard, you know, don't hit it with a broom.
No, I wouldn't do that.
They won't destroy your house like a raccoon will. Although I love raccoons, I've got a very good raccoon friend who just refuses to go out in the wilderness. He keeps coming back, and I think he's going to be the mascot. But
I love them.
Adorable.
Yeah, like
he found out that Oreo cookies don't grow in the wilderness. So
the chat box is lighting up, and I promise we take some questions. So let's take a couple. Betsy from Facebook, were there any boyfriend-girlfriend relationships on the set between the kids? Oh, Betsy.
Oh,
come on, they were adolescents.
That's been the subject of, and people try to make it into something. We were all so innocent. But yeah, I mean, we ended up getting crushes on our counterparts because, I mean,
because your kids and your hormones were raised. Yeah, right.
And Mike looking at, I mean, we were the first. Yeah. He decided he really liked me, and it didn't bother me. We go in the doghouse and kiss each other. But I say that we made out, but I mean, we didn't know how to make out. We were really good kids, but we did get married. We had a little ceremony in the hallway by our schoolroom, and then Eve started growing boobs, so he left me for her. So we had a little ceremony. But Eve had a crush on Chris the whole time. Maureen would go in and out of love with Barry. You know, she'd be like, "Oh, he's so cute," and then the next day, I can't stand him.
What's the craziest Brady Bunch rumor you ever heard?
Oh, that I'm dead. I kind of like that one. The first time it happened, it was when Paul McCartney was rumored to be dead. So it made me feel like a Beatle. And then there was because there was actually a girl named Susan Olsen who died. And some on the East Coast, it was reported that it was me. So that really had some meat behind it. But then it happened again when Anessa Jones died, and then there was the rumor that I was in porn, which is not true. Except I did provide spaceship noises for Love Probe from a Warm Planet. But no screen time, and I didn't moan.
Good. Next question. Allison from Facebook, how hard was it to learn all of those lines? Do you have someone with you at work to remember them?
You know, it was much easier then than it is now. I think I had a lot more brain cells. And the secret to it, and this is what I tell my students, Mom would go over the lines with me at night before I went to bed. And the subconscious helps you. And I usually knew my lines and everybody else's. But I just kind of had that ability. It's sort of a natural thing. And if you don't have it, you know, you can build it. It's a muscle.
Would you get a script like 3 days before shooting, or how much time would you have?
Yeah, we'd have the weekend with it. And of course, you know, it took us 5 days to film an episode. So I would learn you know, I'd read the whole script, but I would learn the lines that I had to do the next day. And Mom would go over them with me. And if I didn't know them, she'd make sure that I knew them before I went to bed.
Wow, that is a lot. All right, Mandy from Facebook. Did you guys ever play jokes on each other on set?
Oh, gosh. But poor Maureen was the butt of most of the jokes. Probably the worst ones were Chris and I were putting frogs. When we were working with frogs, which happened on 2 episodes, and Maureen was terrified of them. And we put them in places where she least expected.
You were the troublemaker. I just have a feeling.
Yeah. I don't know. It was really Chris. I wasn't that brave, but I love a good practical joke. I really do.
Who doesn't? I mean, come on. Really. All right. This one from Betsy. What's your favorite TV show in adulthood?
Mr. Pickles. No, that's a special show. I don't know. I'm waiting for the next season of The Boys to appear. My son and I were binge watching it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's gnarly.
I haven't seen that. Well, what a bit.
There's a lot of gore and a lot of violence. Me, you know, my one regret is that I didn't get involved in special effects, because I think that's where I belonged in the industry. And I just sit going, how did they do that?
There's still time, girl.
You think?
Sure. Why not?
You know why? Because what I would have done is I would have been a mold maker or worked in miniatures, and now everything is CGI.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to be in a movie with special effects. My lifetime dream is to be in an Alien movie. I'm obsessed with Alien. Alien is like a religion to me.
So what's next for you? What's on the horizon?
Alien movie. I want to be killed by a xenomorph so bad. I don't know. You know, I just decided I'm going to try to pursue everything that I can. You know, because one of my best friends is Cherie Curry, who is the lead singer of the Runaways, and she's like, Susan, you know, how many years do we have? Good years. Come on, girl. Maybe 20 at the most. We gotta do as much as we can now while we still can. I thought, yeah, she's right. So part of my move is that I have this really nice loft where I would like to paint with real paints again, which I haven't done in like 20 years. Because I had cameras all around and paints are toxic. So I was digitally painting. Still doing some graphic art and illustration. I will try to get to work. I won't try. I will get to work on my book, my memoir.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a series of short stories about my weird childhood.
That sounds great.
And I do teach. I teach a filmmaking class at Vibe Performing Arts in Santa Clarita, and the class I really enjoy most is when we make a little film. We make these really crazy, silly films, me and the kids. And I really love editing. I mean, doing
That's
some
great.
editing on the side, I'm totally up for.
Well, you have such a fun, full life, it sounds like.
Thank you.
Lots of interests and lots going on. It's great.
And I'll be hugging a raccoon every chance I get, or a possum, or a kid, or a horse, or a cow.
Or all of them. Well, we are out of time, Susan. I just want to thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank
And
you. The pleasure's mine.
it was really
Thank you,
fun.
everybody out there.
Yes, thank you
I'll
for
be back on
watching,
social
everyone.
media someday.
Okay, great. And we'll look forward to your book. And
Thank
you'll come back on and talk about it.
I would love to. Yes.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye, everyone.